are welcome to share your story and inspire others. I am Fiona Brennan, your host. I'm a personal success coach, founder of Inspire Action Success, and here in conjunction with Global M.A.P.S events, I share with you beautiful stories from heart-centered entrepreneurs around the globe. This show is for entertainment purpose only, and the views of our guests are not necessarily the views of Inspire Action Success or M.A.P.S Global events. Enjoy. Hey everybody, how are you today? Welcome back to another Share Your Story and Inspire Others. And today I am absolutely delighted and honoured to be joined by beautiful Eva Fidgeon. Eva is from Shercock in County Cavan, which is based near the north of Ireland. And Eva, you are so welcome to chat with me today. Thank you.
Thank you, Fiona. Thanks for the opportunity, and thanks to everybody who's watching. It's lovely. It's lovely to be considered that your story is inspiring. So hopefully I won't disappoint.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Everybody has an inspiring story. It's just a matter of just getting it out. But Eva, just I suppose for everyone who's listening, you are a massage therapist.
Yes.
You're a meditation teacher, and you're also a life coach, and you really empower others to, I suppose, be the best version they can be through your healing techniques. Is that correct? Or
That's you have said it so nicely, Fiona. Absolutely. Through my own experience and opportunities and journeys, whatever I find sits in me, I share with others to try and help them open up their own life in a way that is, just a different perspective, and realize that everything that we go through, there's something to be probably released, but also something to be gained when you look at it in a different way. Just again, it took time for me to slow down, and really not just slow down physically or slow down my life or slow down my time schedule or anything like that, but definitely slow down my mind, and the amount of time that I spent mentally, the energy I used mentally. And when we say the word time, I could say once I slow down and I use meditation techniques, and I've had teachers myself, where I realized that a lot of the time I spent was projection in the future about situations that hadn't happened yet, but based on past experiences. So I tended to be either in the past, and from that scenario making an idea of what the future may hold for me. And that was a big realization, but I honestly wasn't aware of it, and that's one of the things that I can be compassionate to myself about now. I wasn't aware.
Yes.
And when I wasn't aware, I didn't know. But when you know better, you do better, or you try to do better.
Absolutely.
That's from where I would say, I haven't got a little term for myself, but when somebody comes in to see me, whether it's for a massage or whether it's for a chat, or other clients, I have a holistic center, and they'd like to share their experience, their strength, their knowledge. And sometimes you're saying to them, I see something else there. I think, Fiona, you're really good at that too. You helped me see something in myself that I just wasn't aware that I could bring in a way that other people might enjoy. This interview is one of them. So it's realizing that you have space for others when you're not filling your own space with all of this mental
clutter
and memories and all this kind of stuff. Absolutely.
Yeah. I love that. And the fact that awareness is key. When you're not aware of something, you can't change what you're not aware of. And I always say to people, it's like, once you start to get to know and become clued in, then you can make the little changes that you need. But tell us, Eva, take us back a few years, so we can kind of just get a little bit of, I suppose, of information on where your story began, or even just before, I suppose, what life was like for you a good few years ago.
Okay, so I grew up in Athy in County Kildare, which is Probably, I live in County Cavan now, so it's probably north of Dublin, but I was born and raised south of Dublin. And I was the only daughter, the youngest daughter. I have 2 older brothers. So I went to college and studied languages and business. And while I went to college, I fell pregnant with my first daughter. And she's now 27. And she's a beautiful girl, Rebecca. And that had a huge impact on my, I would say, mental maturity at that time. I wasn't aware of, obviously, of the language of that, but even going back to that time, I had a lot of support. So back 27 years ago in Ireland, you know, being unmarried and having a new baby, it wasn't just, you know, and it's a difficult time, I think, even now, but it certainly was, you know, a stigmatized situation more than it was now. So that had a huge impact in the way I went on from there. So it was a funny situation. The day I found out I was pregnant with Rebecca, you know, I won a scholarship as well. So it was putting on your big girl's pants very, very early on. And like that, that's time too. And, you know, for the young person that I was then, I never regretted that decision. And I still, obviously, I don't regret that decision. I have a beautiful 27-year-old daughter, but it certainly was one of those pinnacle points in time in my life that I can actually go back and be quite clued into how aware I was at that time, if that gives you an idea of the line. So we have flashes at different junctions in our life, different whys in the road, where we can actually go right back into, you know, your mental body, your emotional body, your physical body, and remember how your thought process was at that time. And I'm only using that for, I sort of speak a little bit clearly down the road. So after that, then my life, I felt probably was not in my hands anymore. You know, I had taken on responsibility and that, but that was as a young person who was surrounded by her peers who seemed to know everything they were going to do and everything that was turning out right. And that kind of dark thinking, or, you know, would have come into my life at that time. So it wasn't that it was that the situation was wrong, but it certainly was, my perspective was colored by a way of trying to make things right. So the relationship I was in at that time, you know, was a very fraught kind of relationship, because it certainly was, you know, you don't plan to have children when you're thinking about heading off to France to do scholarship for a year. So how you show up and how you show up in a relationship and the expectations and everything that came around it, really I can only look back and see how the thing happened. But when you were in it at the time, choices I made and situations I ended up in were certainly of a young person who was not aware of much, except, you know, what you do. But it certainly had a big effect on how I got to today, how I got into this position here. So long story short, I was based in around this area. So my former partner, Rebecca's dad, he was from this area up the north, and I had gone up to college in the north. So that's how I kind of started to move around the northern part of Ireland. And then the situation changed. We went our separate ways, and I met my now husband very accidentally, as you know, but as it all happens. But it was a funny story. We were introduced to each other about 2 years before we actually were aware of each other. So awareness is key. And then we met again, and we were married within 15 months.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that led me then to be up in Cavan, where I live now, and we got married 15 months after we met, and we have 4 children together. So I have 5 children in all, and I have 4 children with my husband.
Can I ask you, Eva, sorry, did you go to France in the end, or what happened to that scholarship? Did that get completely parked?
What happened that day, actually, I had a very, very nice tutor. She was the head of the language department, and she had 5 children, as it happened. And she brought me into the office. I had just found out the night before that I was expecting. And, you know, you go back into these situations. And she was such a lovely, lovely woman. And she sat down, she said, there's 4 of you have won the scholarship and you're one. And I said, I just like, whoa. But she was so, I mean, such a strong lady, you know, and she said, I have 5 children. And she said, I have any amount of stuff to help you get through this. But she got to the nitty gritty very, very quickly. Now, I was 5 hours away from my hometown, and I was a couple of months from telling my mother. So, you know, I hadn't that support system around me. I was surrounded by people of my own age.
Yeah.
But she got to the core of that, of my heart center, I'd say, very quickly, Fiona, because she said, now, and she said, within 2 or 3 days, somebody will offer you an option to get out of this situation. And I remember looking at her going, what? How could, you know, I said, I can't go to France. And she said, yes, I know that, but she said, I'm not speaking about that. And that happened. Within 3 days, I had a member of a student union coming up to me and saying, if you need help, we can help you out. And, you know, she had already, I was prepared for that. And it was brilliant because she had prepared me by making me aware of, you know, a thought process and where I needed to really go into myself deeply at that time to really know how would I cope if I made a decision to go to the UK and terminate.
Yes.
Now, that was not something that my peers were coming up with. You know, we were all doing drama and crying and running and, you know, I'll do this and this. But it was at that time that lady said, this is where you need to sit very quietly and very, don't be talking to anybody about this. And, you know, you can come to me and you can speak to me, and without judgment, you can be 100% sure that whatever happens in this room. And, you know, within a very short space of time in that interaction with that lady, I had my answer. And I always had my answer. So when I say to you about being aware and making conscious decisions, before I ever got onto the path of, you know, meditation and awareness and consciousness and all this, I was living a life that I had touched on those things. And that's one of the things I'm very strong with people who come to my meditation classes. This is not something you're not doing already. It's how aware are you when you fall out of that kind of conscious living and awareness and really just stepping back onto that flow. It's not something that's outside of you. It's not something that you have to go to. I'll back this up. It's certainly something that takes practice. It's certainly something that I had to reach out and do different things to come back to a space where I went, oh yeah, I know that feeling. I know when you're so centered in yourself that it's very clear where your true north is. You know, you're going that way, or you're just being steady, or whatever way it turns out to be. So being able to reflect and be with myself. I was already doing that at that young age. And I mean, you can remember times in childhood where things happened, or you remember exactly where you were when you heard that your grandmother had passed, or you remember the taste of the sandwiches that were at a party that you really liked the dress that you were wearing, or something like that. And people look at me and go, oh, that's funny. That's consciousness. That's awareness. You can feel all your senses can go back to that situation. You were fully present.
You can feel you can go back and actually feel the pain or feel the joy all over again, because it's that strong.
Yeah, and as a witness, because you're not there. And
Yes.
really, that is really when you choose to go on a meditation path, that, you know, you can do that all the time. When you practice, you get into the habit of doing it, and you can catch yourself daydreaming and really not being present. And I would say, I this is one of the teachings, relationships, because there are so many people in our house, I would say have been one of my biggest challenges. Because when I discover something, I always naturally want to go, guess what? Ta-da! It's like, you know, discovering the apple falling from the tree. I think everybody else wants to know the exact same thing that I want, that I've been searching for my whole life. And they naturally would go, oh, wow, this is just, our whole life is going to be changed. But that has been one of my challenges from a situation that happened to me that really fast forwarded me into this, where I am today. So I had an accident in 2010.
So, okay, so let's just summarize. So the same day you discovered you were pregnant, you had your scholarship to France. You didn't go to France. Beautiful Rebecca came into the world. You went up a bit around the north again, or area, and then you found, so many years later, you met your
I lived in Monaghan. Yeah, I lived in a county called Monaghan for a year. And, you know, just to make sure that, you know, this relationship that I was in, you know, we decided, you know, it was do or don't. So how you find out was you commit to it. So I committed to it, and it didn't work out. It didn't work out. I'm still in touch with Rebecca's dad and his family, who were very, very good to me. So that in itself is great. I mean,
absolutely.
It's one of those systems where, you know, you go back to see people who have been in your life and have supported you at a huge level, and they're just another part of life that, you know, you can sit and laugh and talk about the times when we were that age and go, you know. And so we're still talking, you know. There.
So you have your 5 children now at this point. You're with your new husband, and
we married in
then
2000.
You come up to 2000. What year did you get married?
We got married in 2000, the year 2000.
Okay.
And we settled in a house outside the village of Shercock, which is about it's about 20 minutes from the north of Ireland. But still, it's still in the Republic of Ireland, but it's quite a way away from where I'm originally from.
Yeah. So for 10 years you're married there.
Yep, 10 years I'm married there, and I have 3 sons and I have 2 daughters altogether, so 5 children. And just taking along, getting on with life. I would have had a huge interest in amateur dramatics, so that was my biggest. I loved doing that, and I would have had with Rebecca's dad himself and myself would have done children's entertainment, and I would have been on stage a good bit, and I love doing it. And the local group here have a very good record of producing, you know, good drama. So that was one of the things I really liked to do when I wasn't doing the house or whatever it was. I worked at home. I ran my husband's business with him. He's a joiner, and I just was
happy out.
Just grand. So
and then what happened in 2010?
In 2010, after a rehearsal for a play, I went to one of the local pubs, which is you know, we were having a beer or whatever, and that pub had a flight of stairs that went down to the ladies, and I fell down the flight of stairs and I hit my head, and that I hit my head on the left hand side here. My brain ricocheted, you know, and I had a subdural hematoma in the right side. So it was a life-threatening condition. So I went to the local hospital, and they weren't so hopeful, but the main hospital that deals with neurological conditions is Beaumont in Dublin, and they operated on me. I was in a coma for a few days, and I recovered within reason for a good few weeks. And then the side of my head that had been operated on, it became infected. So my skull, the skull flap this side, was removed for 11 months and replaced
To release the infection, is it?
To release the infection, to make sure that anything that was kind of hidden underneath it was allowed out. I was measured for a prosthesis, and it was put in April 2011. So there were other factors.
Sorry, Eva, to interrupt you. A prosthesis piece of skull, is it?
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
So I have my right hand side is prosthetic.
Wow, piece. I didn't realize that was a thing.
Yeah, I didn't either. But
you fell on the left, but it was because the clash that it all hit the right.
Yeah, it hit the right.
And at this stage, while all that is going on, are you like in hospital, unable to be mom? Or you, what are you at while all this is going on?
Well, what are you at? So what are you at? And that's another, like, that year, or that 11 months was probably, definitely, I would say, the darkest period of my life. And you know, we talk about the dark night of the soul, and you know, going into your shadow side and all that kind of stuff. I would say that time in my life, and physically, Fiona, of course I was impaired, there's no doubt about it. I wasn't, but I would say the amount of I'd have to use the word anger that came up around me in that time. I remember, you know, you process your life, you know, you process so many different ways of being, and you know, you're highly medicated for one, and you're restricted, and you have a family, and you're restricted sometimes by sitting in a chair. And now this sounds crazy, and I know guys will think this is crazy too, but you know, I used to see people coming in with the shopping, you know, the grocery shopping, and I'd be going, I could be like that. If I thought they didn't buy the right groceries for the right dinners or anything like that, I was tough to live with. You know, it was a very challenging.
So you weren't able to so for the 11 months while the whole thing was between the infection being sorted, the prosthesis going in, you weren't in hospital, but you weren't able to do anything at home, as in you had.
No, I was.
Well, you were able. So you had all your physical.
Within reason. Yeah, I was. I tried to do more. Yeah,
you were trying to do more. Okay.
And that was the frustration. So I was
trying to be resting.
Yeah.
Okay, but you weren't.
I mean, well, look, you'd find days where you think, okay, now, and this was the thing, and the childishness that came up in that time. So the unwillingness to be looked after. That was one of the most challenging things for people around me, because I have a very, well, at that time, I was very stubborn, and everything was going to be my way. And it was one of those humbling experiences where, you know, it's not your way. So that 11 months was probably the thing that sparked how to just come up. So I went, you know, what does Carl Jung say? You know, you have to go down, you have to put your roots down in hell before you can come up into heaven. And that year certainly was that. I did things, I forced myself to do things, I forced myself upon people. I insisted that I was going to live a normal life. I drank, I went out to restaurants, I tormented the heart and soul out of everybody probably that was around me.
Because they were worried about you, is it?
Absolutely. I mean,
they wanted you to rest, but you wanted to just keep going or get back into things, and
force the me that had gone,
force the wellness,
and be me, the me that, you know. And I have the language now, but I certainly didn't have the time, but I had to go through it to kind of review it. You know, this persona, or this ego person that had the life, that had the 5 children, I wanted her back. I wanted to be her again. I didn't want this life. I did not want to be here. I didn't want, you know, what I had railed against maybe different nights before my accident, where I wanted to be on the stage and I wanted to be doing my own thing. That became very, very clear that I want. I remember having a t-shirt actually when I was a child that said, I want. And that's what that year really showed, because I really wanted the old life that I thought I didn't want when I was living it back. So I went through those 11 months really very much trying to be that person again. Wasn't going to happen. And the acceptance of that came with a friend of mine's help, you know, and she just said, I can't be your friend anymore. And that, I remember that,
Wow.
that conversation I had with her. I had been drinking the day before, and this lady would be a special person in my life. And I remember being all at sea the next morning, you know, and Rebecca as well is an important part of the story too, because I remember Rebecca saying to me when I came home that night from being out. Now, I had just prosthesis in about 5 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah. And I had gone to the pub. And I remember Rebecca coming back, because I was going to be this even better version of myself with a prosthetic, the bionic woman. Woo-hoo. So I came in the door, and I remember Rebecca saying to me, Mom, would you stop doing this now? And again, when I woke up the next morning, it was just neon light. And I remember thinking, oh God, this is just terrible. And I called this friend who would have been my go-to central. And she just said, no, I'm not doing it with you anymore. Can't do it. Can't watch you recover, you know, be a miracle, and, you know, and then just go and throw it away again. No. And it was just like, just a big thing going up. So that was a big day of surrender, I suppose. And that was the first day of, what am I going to do? So I started to just really go inside myself that day. And I went inside myself by going outside myself. So I read every type of self-help group. I found a self-help group and I attended it. And I followed people's advice within that unit. And I really started to dig deep about my own, who I believed I was, who I believed I had to be, and really going back to what that woman said in the office about what I was going to do about being pregnant, but what was real? Like, I mean, what was really at the center of all this? And again, as I say, none of this I had language for, Fiona. I didn't have language like that at the time.
Yeah.
I certainly was open to hear as much information as I possibly could, and to really try and develop that. But that was a process too. So like for the first 2 or 3 years, I was constantly, my head stuck in a book, or I was constantly talking to somebody, self-help and all this. It was,
what was the thing behind it though, Eva, that you had tried for the 11 months and more to go back to who you were, and just for all the world nearly just pretend the thing didn't happen, or that you're bigger and better, versus the point of now, as you said, the word surrender, realizing that the piece that you thought you were wasn't going to work anymore, as you were getting the feels from the people around you, the loved ones telling you, look, this isn't gonna, I don't want to see this. And then discovering that, or actually standing, realizing, so if I'm not that, what am I, or who am I, or what am I going to do if I can't revert back to what I was before, the Eva I knew on stage and into everything? Who am I supposed to be? Was that the piece that you were just, you know, between scrambling through the books and reaching out for help? Was it like, who am I? What am I supposed to do now?
Yeah. And really, the thing I couldn't understand more than anything else, and this is the holy all of it, to be honest, Fiona, was when my friend and my daughter looked at me with the way they looked at me and spoke to me, I couldn't see the person that they were so concerned about.
Yeah.
I couldn't get that
What they were
connection.
saying. Yes.
Couldn't see that. And
Yeah.
so, but I was trying to always be better, do better, go better. This was all projection of, so I had never tapped into actually this person that was consistently showing up for other people that loved me. So the people that loved me in life, or I was always, I thought, you know, I didn't think about things like that. When I'm surrounded by love, I'd be always trying to make sure that, so there was always this self-worth thing that I had never even anticipated, that I was always people pleasing, but not because the people wanted me to please them, because I needed to people please to feel steady in any kind of relationship or any kind of situation. Now that took long time in, and I say 3 years looking at books and everything else. And then when I had to put the stuff into practice, the hardest thing for me to do wasn't to apologize to anybody, because I could say sorry a million times a day over things I do and genuinely be sorry, because I would never have a problem with that.
Yeah.
But I could never really authentically get this feeling of receiving love.
Yes.
I couldn't, if somebody gave me a compliment, or, you know, I'd be like, I could be overwhelmed. I couldn't speak when it'd be coming from the right place. You know, when you really get something, you know, and somebody says something to you and you go, oh, thanks. Right. Now, do I think that was just a thing that happened to me? I think it's a kind of an Irish thing too. We're very hard we're very hard on ourselves, but to have that little bit of compassion and to have that, you know, and you've mentioned, I think today, you know, the humanity that I can show for somebody else, I couldn't show it for myself.
Yeah.
The ownership I had over the accident became very clear to me on a trip when I was down home with my mother. So my mother lives in Kildare, and you know, in this country, a lot of people would be doing prayers and visiting their local church. And so when somebody's ill, community come together, and we have a very tight community here where I live, and so many people came together and prayed for me, and again down home. But when I was out and about here, I would run, because if anybody else said to me, oh, isn't it amazing, aren't you amazing, and I couldn't handle it, you know. I just was like, because I was still living the fact that I had been in the pub, I'd fallen down the stairs, and I hadn't forgiven myself for that.
Yeah.
I hadn't forgiven myself for that yet. So I didn't forgive anybody else then who brought it up, because I was thinking, do they have to keep reminding me that that's what happened when I was, you know, few sheets to the wind, you know, I wasn't sober. So we were in town in my hometown, and this lady that I would have been familiar with her, but I wouldn't have known her, you know, my mother knew her by name, and she stopped and she cried, Fiona. And this could have been 6 months, it could have been while I had my prosthesis, wasn't in on my head, and she cried, and I was like, right. And she said, I prayed for you. I prayed so hard for you. And something started in my chest that day, and a softness came. And it even comes now when I talk about that, because she was a stranger to me, but her heart was touched to reach out and help in whatever way she could, to help a strange person, even though she said, I remember when you were younger, and her daughter, unfortunately had died in an accident. But that was a feeling I couldn't escape from, or I couldn't run down the road away from her, or I couldn't go, don't bring that up at me, don't you bring that thing up at me, because you know, she would have known the circumstances of the whole thing. And I remembered standing there that day, and of course I was ready to cry, and I just said thank you. And I said thank you, and I really meant thank you, because it just brought to me that it's not about what you do or what you say or where you are. It's about love, and it's about compassion, and it's about people just wanting the best for you, wanting you to be good and wanting you to be well, and no return.
Yeah.
Nothing. No return, nothing. Just, I'm so happy you're well. I prayed for you. And she wasn't saying it in, I did 3,000 novenas for you, or I did 4 million Hail Marys for you.
Yes.
She was just saying, you've given me something by being alive.
By being alive, by meeting her there in the street. It
Yeah.
just, yeah.
So, I mean, I didn't become enlightened that day or by any stretch of the imagination, but I
They're all
certainly
like little pieces that all just, when you look back on them, they're all these little pieces that just help.
It brought me into that
Yeah.
now moment, you know, that now where you're, I can feel it still, and it has an effect on myself, you know. So when I was introduced then to meditation and meditation practices, I still couldn't add up that I was actually meditating all my life, or I had conscious awareness at certain points in my life. I had flashes of different conscious awareness. So that was really a deconstruct of the person I thought I should be or could be, or I didn't have to do anything anymore. But I certainly had to clean out a lot of thought process and patterns of behavior, and just really look at them honestly and say to myself, like, what are you doing here? You know, and that to some people it might have looked a little bit selfish, but it's certainly something that I personally had to do myself. And
what is your, so, you know, in your work that you do now, and in that whole journey of growth of self-help and meditation, from where you were before the accident and even that first year after the accident, what is one thing, is there something in particular that just for you stands out as being the big piece that when you got it, it just allowed you then to just go from there? It was kind of like that penny. There's always something for different people. What was the particular piece for you that you thought, oh, if I need to share this with people, I need to help others with this piece, I need to share it, or whatever?
Well, again, I've always been interested in my uncle was always massaging guys after GAA matches, and he wasn't a masseuse, he is a carpenter, and I have 2 brothers, I have many male cousins and stuff like that, so to be in that kind of situation was never really alien to me. But I always was very interested in massage and stuff like that. So I qualified, the year I got married, I qualified to be a massage therapist, and then I had kids and I didn't do it.
Yeah.
So the year that 2011, I got my prosthesis in. And when I was forcing myself to be somebody that I should be, I forced myself to learn how to run. And in 2012, I forced a friend of mine to run with me, and we ran the Dublin Marathon. And we did the 26 miles in 5 hours. Like, you know, we didn't break Olympic records, but we ran the Dublin Marathon in 2012. So at that stage, I knew I'm going to do something here. I'm just going to do something. That I kept putting things in my way to challenge myself. And yeah, there was a definite element of being the other person in that, but it was certainly a different way of, I didn't have that negative thought pattern that would have come in after I had when I was young. So it was kind of the other end of the spectrum. So I started to really challenge myself in those kind of directions. And while I was going to every single race that God ever created, you know, I'd see these guys with massage tables just flipping them up and massaging people after runs. And I was saying to my friend, I could do that. And she goes, will you please do it? Because if you don't stop talking about it. So I did it. And I opened a massage clinic at my house. And that's where I didn't consciously decide it or go, this is what I'm going to do. I just kind of did it. And then I went to a sports massage course. The guy that trained me was amazing. And this is one of the things I would say Fiona has had me always. I always seem to get these teachers that just come in at the right place at the right time. So Peter Murphy was the guy that taught me in the beginning, and he was just amazing. He'd amazing wealth of knowledge that he's just go, just do that. just put your finger there and do that. And you'd say, is that in the book? And he'd say, no, it's not in the book. And don't be telling anybody I said it, but there you go. And that led me on then to another teacher, a Korean guy, and Doran Kim is his name. And he was just amazing, amazing man. Amazing man, had school here in Ireland. I think he's in Korea, back in Korea now, but he was Korean. And again, he taught me some acupressure. And then his teacher, his higher teacher, was a Buddhist monk who used to come from Korea, and he took to show us stuff. So having those kind of people, being with those kind of people who were thinking in a completely different way than anyone I had ever surrounded myself before. So I started to surround myself with different people, different kinds of people, different outlooks, different ways of looking at things. And that's just what happened. Then I met a meditation teacher, Dennis is his name, and he introduced me to another lady in Cavan. Her name is Christine. And then I went on a big journey over to India, and I met a teacher there. I'm still in contact.
Wow, okay.
And that's where life started to just go. And who I thought I should be got kicked into space, because
what was that piece though? Is it because you just kind of, as you said, use your word, surrendered?
Yeah.
You just seen what comes up. You felt, you saw the massage table, you were doing the running. I could do that. Okay, I'm going to do that.
Yeah. It was
just allowing whatever might come from that. One piece led to the next piece, led to the next piece, without it being like plotted out.
Yeah, well, I would say, Fiona, and again, it's hard to convey it in one sentence.
Yeah.
But when I started getting honest in here, then, and I say this to my own children, about the lies we tell ourselves, about the situations, about what other people are thinking. They're thinking this about me, they're thinking that about me, I'm thinking this, I'm not thinking. And in the meantime, you're not thinking at all. You're just continually having this kind of inner monologue, dialogue.
Stories.
Yeah, and when that starts to slow, you know, sometimes you catch yourself saying something, go, yeah, how real is that? And reality changed. So when I put myself in different places, my reality started to change. And then awareness of what was possible and what wasn't possible completely changed as well, because I wasn't limiting myself, because the people that I was with weren't limiting themselves. And the other part was, they didn't show any kind of care about my relationship with them. So whatever I did, I was totally responsible for, and I didn't affect them. And that was like, that was a major shift for me, because you know, this thing that people play games with one another a lot, where they kind of go, well, if I do this, then they might do that. So even that in itself, you know, you could not get away with anything when you started moving with these kind of people who had really done something with themselves. So I've kind of aspired to be free of that kind of attachment to being this person. If I say this now, and if I behave this kind of way, then I'll get a result. Just drop the results. Just show up, shut up. And I don't mean shut up anybody else. I mean, shut up and, you know, see what happens. Again, it wasn't a thought process. It just started to happen when I started to move in the right environment and open my ears a little bit. And without it, they'll all laugh when I'm saying this. I challenged them 100%. I held on to that codependency kind of thing all the time. I would even say it's still in me. There's that natural fallback into making somebody else be responsible for what you say or what way it's going to turn out. And to be responsible for yourself takes a lot of growing up. And I would say on any given day, I haven't got it yet in different situations, but it's definitely what would be the piece I would say to you is the ability to respond instead of being responsible, you know, giving people away. Some people say giving away your power. I didn't have power. I blamed everybody else for the situation that I got myself into. I didn't have any power, so no, I had no power. No. But the power I had was a kind of a passive aggressive kind of way of going on. And that's the truth of what has me here. And you know, I'm not telling this. I would have compassion with that young girl. I would have compassion for my young self. I would have compassion now for decisions I made 6 months ago that I felt were right at the time. And but a daily, a daily practice was what I found helped me start really being able to respond to life, to respond to people who might be getting angry with me. And then I had the space to say, I don't know what's going on in their back room. I don't know what's going on in their life. I don't know what's going on in their relationship, their nearest and dearest. So I have to have a little bit of space to allow them to throw the toys out of the pram and hope that in 2 days' time they're going to go, God, I was that way and she didn't come back at me like that, you know. So and
the words that just popped out to me here is creating the space.
Yeah.
Creating the space by slowing down so that you can respond, because we naturally react because we don't create the space. But when you create the space, you give yourself a chance to respond. And the other word is detachment that you said as well. Detaching from the result of maybe the thing that you're doing, the work that you're doing, or whatever it is you're trying out, learning, but also detaching from the situation that you don't really know about because you only know your piece.
Yeah, totally.
And you don't know, as you said, what's going on with them. So when you create the space to respond plus detach, that's, you know, powerful.
Yeah, and even into, like, again, I can only speak for myself and my patterns of behavior, but you know, the thing that crucified over myself was that drinking thing, you know, when I was falling down drunk. So I had to address that completely. And one of the ways I could see with my habit of drinking was I couldn't for a long time see that I used alcohol in a way that I thought, and again, not that I needed it, but I never studied the actual the way I reacted to alcohol. So whether I had one drink or 10 drinks or whatever you wanted to say, is that attachment to an outside thing that would produce something inside of me. And when we're taught different methods of meditation, I mean, there's all different types of meditation you can find, and everybody has their own discipline and everybody has their own teacher. But the Vedic tradition was the way I was taught, and you know, Patanjali is one of the great, you know, the Yoga Sutras, and to really pull the thread on something. And that's why I say the 11 months where I was at home going into my really dark space, yeah, I had to do it to see the whole spectrum of my thought process on power and who was holding me back, and you know, all this kind of stuff. If I had been more responsible and working with people around me at that time, I would have had 10 times more freedom, because they wouldn't have thought, don't let that one out the door, because God knows what she's going to do. Because, you know, I was like a wild stallion going, let me out, you know, this. But I couldn't see that if I went kind of in the middle and dealt with the people around me, then we would have had a different thing. And that, I've done that with most everything. I try to do most everything now to see what attachment do I have to spending money if I'm in bad form to make myself feel better. That's not the answer. It really isn't the answer. Go one step in front, go behind that. Go behind that. What happens in me when I buy something I probably can't afford, which is probably what I do, the worse I feel, the more money I spend. Do I do that? Yes, I do that. Why do I do that? Where did that come out? And they're the kind of things that questions that start to come into my life. Now, they have thrilled me for a long time. They've tormented the heart and soul out of my family, my husband and my children, because they go, "Amma, you do everything to extreme." And I do. and I've seen that that's the kind of person I am. But at the same time, I can see how I can help people, because when I go into things and I go extremely into things, I probably have tripped over a couple of hurdles that some people that are coming to me are facing at the time. So that compassion has come, and I've accepted the spirit that's in me, I suppose, or the life force that's in me, or whatever you want to call it now. I don't call it anything, because on any given day it can turn up in such a different. Enthusiasm could be one thing you could call it, but it's definitely, it's life. It's just life, like, and it's every part of life, like every part of life, even the bits that are challenging. Sometimes they can be the gold for me, because, you know, I can see myself in a total no place to go, no place to run, except just sit and shh, just it'll pass, and it does pass. But you might catch something in yourself right there, you know, like when that woman said to me, I prayed for you. I can't give that, I'm trying to tell you that, but I can't explain that feeling. It's just like a little that goes off. So
no, it's, my goodness, I could listen to you for so much longer. But just as we start to wrap up, I suppose, what is one piece, you know, somebody listening to this today who, you know, is maybe just struggling with that, you know, facade of who they're supposed to be, and it's fighting because it's just not right, and you know it, but you don't know any other way. What is something that you could say to somebody for them to either do, or just, you know, to start, you know, even just pondering, you know, whether it be just to pause, be quiet, or what is it that you could pass on right now?
Well, particularly for these times, and, you know, one of the things is not to isolate. I can certainly say, don't isolate. Don't isolate yourself with your thinking, because you'll always tie yourself up in knots. And one of the things is, don't believe everything you tell yourself. Do not believe every single thing that you tell yourself every day. And if you have to change, and I mean, this sounds so cliche and everything else, but just change one thing in your routine every day that is something that gets you out, I would say to anybody else, fresh air. Feed yourself properly. Just look after yourself. Look after you like you'd look after somebody that really, really needs to be nursed and minded and cared for. And don't isolate yourself. And be around people in so much that you can. I find animals, I have to say, and that you shared something with me there earlier, and that's just, yeah, you know, it's if it's something that challenges you to get out of your head, whether it's to feed the birds. Feed the birds is great. I mean, I know it might sound too simple, but it is the simple things that put one step in front of the other. There's nothing expected of you. You don't have to join a group. You don't have to spend money. You don't have to do anything that, you know, your mind will tell you, that's just a gig. That's just something else. Get outside, walk in the sun, walk in the rain, breathe the air. Just do something that makes you feel life. Like I would tell you, yesterday it was windy, it was raining here, it was everything else. I put on my wellies, I got my dogs, went to my donkeys, and we had a great crack for 20 minutes. And it's as simple as that. Keep it simple. If you have somebody that you can call into, or, you know, just touch base with, that mightn't just be feeling A1 either. Their story mightn't be just as something that you thought would rattle your cage. But they're good to see you coming, you know. Connect with nature, connection with nature,
connection with people,
life. With life,
and connection with life, whether it be the life source of the fuel that you need to put into your body, the goodness, or whether it be walking on soft grass. I mean, even in the wind and rain. In fact, it's more powerful in the wind and rain. It's actually
totally. I mean, you're not going to melt. I can assure you that you won't melt any fat away from your body. You're definitely there. You know, anything. I mean, anything at all. Like I would say, I've been in different countries, and there might be just myself and my husband, and we'd have different routines. And I'd always go to different places where there'd be different religions. I'm very interested in that kind of thing. And you would always find somebody, you just look at life, you know, get a cup of coffee and just watch. And, you know, it's life will start, you invite life in, it'll come to you. It will come to you.
Curiosity is powerful. If you says, you just say, just watch, but watch for curiosity and interest, as opposed to trying to create stories and just, I love that.
And you know, it's simple to go into the past, and it's simple to project the future, but being just an observer with no, you know, even with strangers, it's okay, because it's something that didn't happen yesterday in the darkness in your mind. And you know, that mightn't be night, but the feeding the birds.
And the power of, you know, we're really going to wrap up now, but the power of feeding the birds, for example, or just getting outside, just feeling that rain or that wind on your face, brings you into the present moment, which is what meditation is all about, which is basically removes you from the anxiety of the future or the regret and blackness of whatever you might have deemed the past to be. It just puts you in the now. And then when you've done that little step, you can go another little step, and then another little step, one moment at a time. So from your talking here today, you know, the words that come out to me is really, as you say, the presence for your meditation. And that can be anything. That can be 2 minutes, 3 minutes. It doesn't mean like, oh, I have to sit for like an hour at my feet crossed. No. Space, slowing down, and bringing it back to yourself, filling your own cup and asking, what do you want? What feels good to you? As opposed to, what do they expect of me?
What like who is this person that you think has to be better job, better this, better that? Because that kind of transformation, or, you know, you can only understand life backwards, but you know, you live it forwards. So it's the job that you thought you'd never have, you didn't know existed when you were back there. So forget all like that. You just you're just building from the ground up all the time, grounding yourself, centering yourself. Feeding the birds has a huge link to your ancestral lineage, and this is going into a different kind of spiritual thing. But feeding the birds is one of the most powerful things you can do to energize every single system in you, because there is no judgment from the birds. They'll accept your bread.
Ah, fabulous.
You're there, they're there, you're feeding them, they're grateful, you feel. And I think that's the best.
Fabulous. Love that. I love that. I can't help but there's a song in my head called Feed the Birds. I'm not going to even go there now. Yes, it is. I was trying to think what movie. I know it's a musical, but I'll be singing that now once I get over here.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. So, listen, Eva, we better wrap up, because and thank you everybody for watching this little extra long chat, but it had to be done because there's so much juiciness in it. Thank you for sharing your personal story.
Thank you, Fiona. Thank you very much
for the wonderful work you now do as a result of your personal transformation, you know, through your holistic work, meditation work, and all your teachings. Beautiful. And we didn't even get to touch on the beautiful space that you have, but we will come back and do that another day.
Great.
But if anybody's interested to chat with you, just to find out a little bit more about what you do, what is the best way to connect with you?
You could email me, is probably the best way. My email address is it's quite long, so should I type it in the chat?
We'll put it in the notes actually afterwards. Yeah.
Okay.
We'll put it at the bottom of the thing. Yeah.
I teach meditation on Zoom on a Wednesday. It's Dublin time, European time. GMT is 7:30 till 8:30, and I share that space with my teacher, and she's an amazing lady. And so the class is a mantra meditation. So I generally sing the mantras, and then Christine will expand. We talk about energy, we talk about soul, we talk about you know, consciousness, awareness, and it's open to anybody who has never tried it before. That's what we do. So anybody's welcome to join that. It's free. You don't have to
Okay.
pay. And that's how you'll see me directly. Then in my own business, I do massages. I do different consultations.
Yeah,
so
perfect. We'll put up a couple of links on the bottom of
Thank you,
the
Fiona.
notes
That's
anyway. So
brilliant.
Eva, thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you everybody
Yes.
for listening, and
Thank
have a great, wonderful day as always. Okay, thank you.
Cheers. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, Slán.